Don't drive, your wife cut the brakes. The desperate scream of a 9-year-old girl echoed through the private parking lot of the mansion of Kyle al-Hassan, 42, one of the richest Arab businessmen in New York. The black child, barefoot and wearing torn clothes, had managed to get past security and was running toward the navy blue Lamborghini, where Khalil had just started the engine. Security guard Thomas immediately moved forward to intercept the intruder. "Get out of here now, you little brat," he shouted, grabbing the girl's skeletal arm. But she struggled with a desperate strength that belied her size. "Sir, please," she screamed again, looking directly at Khalil through the glass. "Your wife cut the brakes. You're going to die." Khalil turned off the engine, feeling a cold chill run up his spine. Those words were not a joke or a common begging plea. There was something in the child's voice, a visceral urgency, a genuine terror that made him hesitate. "Let her go," he said to the security guard, getting out of the car. The girl was shaking, not from the cold, but from fear and exhaustion. Her large, expressive eyes were fixed on him with a disturbing intensity. "How do you know my name? How do you know who my wife is?" Khalil asked, approaching cautiously. "I saw her last night," the child replied between sobs. "She was in the garage with tools. She cut some wires under the car. I heard her talking on the phone about you not coming home anymore." Khalil felt the blood drain from his body. His wife, Victoria, 35, had been acting strangely for the past few weeks. She had called their anniversary trip, claiming health problems. She had spent entire nights awake whispering on the phone. And at that very moment, she was at home supposedly too sick to get out of bed. "You're lying," Khalil said. But his voice sounded less convincing than he intended. "I don't lie about this." The girl exploded, tears streaming down her dirty face. "My parents died like that. Someone cut the brakes on their car 2 years ago. I was in the back seat. I know how it feels." The silence that followed was deafening. Thomas watched the scene uncomfortably, clearly wanting to throw the child out, but intimidated by his boss's reaction. "What's your name?" Cal asked, his voice softer now. "Amamera," she replied, wiping her nose on her torn sleeve. "Amamera Johnson. I sleep behind the wall of your house sometimes. That's how I saw it." Khalil looked at the girl, truly looked at her for the first time. Tangled curly hair, clothes that were too big for her thin frame, bare feet covered in bruises. But it was her eyes that disturbed him, eyes that had seen things no 9-year-old should ever see. "Thomas, go check the car, now," Khalil ordered. "Sir, this is ridiculous. She's just a street kid trying to now," Kyle shouted, making both Thomas and Amira jump. As the security guard reluctantly made his way to the Lamborghini, Khalil crouched down in front of Amira. "If you're lying, I'll call the police. If you're telling the truth," he paused. "I owe you my life," Thomas shouted from the garage. "Mr. Al-Hassan, something's wrong here. The brake cables have been cut." The world seemed to stop. Khalil felt his legs wobble. If he had left in that car for the meeting downtown with that steep descent on 5th Avenue, he would be dead in less than 10 minutes. "How did you know?" he asked Amamara, his voice almost a whisper. "Because I promised I would never let this happen to anyone again," she replied, holding something in her pants pocket. A small dirty teddy bear with one eye missing. "My parents always told me that we should protect people even when no one protects us." At that moment, Khalil realized that his life had been saved by a child whom society had made invisible, and that the woman sleeping in his bed had meticulously planned his murder. If you're feeling the same shock as Khalil right now, subscribe to the channel, because this story of betrayal and courage is just beginning. And what comes next will change everything you think about trust and family. 2 hours later, Khalil was sitting in a quiet cafe in Brooklyn with Amira, watching her devour a sandwich as if she hadn't eaten in days. He had called his personal lawyer, Dr. Benjamin Carter, who would be arriving shortly. But first, he needed to understand how a 9-year-old had discovered something that he, a seasoned businessman, had failed to notice. "Amira, tell me exactly what you saw last night," Khalil said gently. The girl stopped chewing and looked around nervously. "I sleep behind the wall of your house because it's safe. No one bothers me there. Yesterday, I woke up to a noise in the garage." "What kind of noise?" "Metal banging like when my dad used to fix cars." Her eyes quickly filled with tears. "I saw a blonde woman working under your car with a toolbox. She was nervous, looking around all the time." Khalil felt a knot in his stomach. Victoria had said she had spent the whole night with a headache. "Are you sure it was my wife? She said so on the phone. I heard her say, Tomorrow morning when he leaves. It will look like an accident. Then she said she had cut it very cleanly that it wouldn't fail. Amamera trembled. Just like the man who killed my parents. At that moment Dr. Carter arrived, a 55-year-old black man, a criminal lawyer Khalil had known for 15 years. After hearing Amira's story, his expression darkened. Cal, this is attempted murder, but we need more evidence than a child's testimony, Carter said quietly. As brave as she is, a court will question her credibility. Then what do? We go back to your house carefully and we investigate. Khalil looked at Amamera, who had stopped eating and was watching them intently. Amamera, do you know of a safe place to stay tonight? She shook her head. I always manage on my own. Not today. Today you're staying with me. Khalil made a decision that surprised him. Dr. Carter, can you find a safe hotel for her? Of course. But Kyle, you realize this child could be in danger now if Victoria finds out she knows. Khalil's blood ran cold. He hadn't thought of that. Amira had become a witness. And Victoria, he was beginning to realize that he didn't really know the woman he had married 5 years ago. An hour later, they were at the mansion. Victoria descended the stairs elegantly, wearing a white silk robe, her blonde hair perfectly styled for someone who was supposedly ill. Darling, you're back early, she said, kissing him on the cheek. I thought you had a late meeting. Change of plans. Victoria, this is Dr. Carter, my lawyer. And this is Amira. Victoria looked at the child, and Khalil saw something he had never noticed before. A flash of pure panic in his wife's blue eyes. It was quick, but it was there, a child, Victoria said, forcing a smile. Why is there a dirty child in our house? She saved my life today, Khalil replied, watching every micro-expression on Victoria's face. What do you mean? Her voice sounded strangely high-pitched. The brakes on the Lamborghini were sabotaged. Someone cut the cables during the night. Victoria put her hand on her chest in a theatrical gesture. My God, that's terrible. Who would do such a thing? Amira took a step back, hiding behind Khalil. He felt her small hands trembling as they clung to his jacket. We don't know yet, Khalil lied. But we'll find out. Carter will coordinate the investigation. Of course. I need to lie down. I'm feeling dizzy from this news, Victoria said quickly, climbing the stairs. As soon as she was gone, Dr. Carter whispered, she's lying. Body language, micro-expressions, everything screams guilt. I know. The question is why. Carter opened his briefcase and took out some documents. While you were at the cafe, I did some preliminary checks. Khalil, your wife has a life insurance policy in your name worth 10 million. Taken out 3 months ago. Khalil felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. 10 million. I didn't sign that. Your signature is here. But Carter brought the document closer. Look at this watermark. It's a professional forgery. Amamira tugged at Khalil's sleeve. Sir, the woman upstairs. She's slowly coming down the stairs, and she's got something in her hand. They turned and saw Victoria standing in the middle of the staircase holding an object that glinted in the light of the chandelier. It was a kitchen knife. Victoria, what are you doing? Khalil asked, his voice controlled but tense. You know, don't you? She said, continuing to descend slowly. That damn child ruined everything. Doctor, Carter discreetly pulled out his phone and called the police. Amira cowered even further behind Khalil. Victoria, put the knife down, we can talk about this. Talk, she laughed, a cold, humorous sound. 5 years, Khalil. 5 years of being the perfect wife, smiling at your boring friends, pretending I care about your business, and when I finally decide to end it, some stinking street urchin ruins everything. Why do you want to kill me? Khalil asked, keeping his voice calm as he calculated the distance to the door. Because 10 million is worth more than putting up with you for the rest of my life, Victoria said simply. And because I have someone waiting for me, someone who truly loves me. At that moment, Amamira whispered something that made Khalil's blood run cold. Sir, she's the same woman who killed my parents. The silence that followed Amira's whisper was broken only by the sound of sirens approaching in the distance. Victoria stopped on the stairs, her eyes narrowing dangerously. What did you say, you little rat? Victoria descended 2 more steps, the knife trembling in her hand. You killed my parents, Amira repeated, her voice stronger now, coming from behind Khalil. I remember your face. You were at their funeral, pretending to be a reporter. Khalil felt his world collapse. Victoria, is this true? Of course not, Victoria shouted. But Dr. Carter was already recording everything on his phone. This girl is delirious. My father found out you were stealing parts from the warehouse where he worked. Amamera continued, tears streaming down her face, but her voice steady. He was going to report you, so you cut the brakes on his car, just like you did on yours. Victoria descended 3 more steps, now only 5 mem away from them. Shut up, shut up. At that moment Dr. Carter revealed something no one expected. Victoria, or should I call you by your real name? Christine Palmer. Victoria froze completely. The mask of elegance finally fell, revealing the face of a desperate and cornered woman. How do you know that name? She whispered. Because I've spent the last 2 hours investigating you thoroughly, Carter replied, pulling documents from his briefcase. Christine Palmer wanted by the FBI for insurance fraud in 4 different states. Always the same method. Marry rich men, take out large insurance policies, and then accidents happen. Khalil felt nauseous. How many? You would have been the 5th, Carter said coldly. Amamera's parents were collateral damage. Her father discovered that Christine was using the parts warehouse as a base for her operations. Christine laughed hysterically. 5 years pretending to be the submissive Arab wife. 5 years putting up with your ridiculous traditions, your pretentious friends, your idiotic rules about how a woman should behave. Then why didn't she just get a divorce? Khalil asked, genuinely confused. Because divorce would have given me a few million. Widowhood would give me everything. She pointed the knife at Amira, and that stinking little brat almost ruined years of planning. The sirens were louder now. Victoria realized she was trapped. You think I'm going to go to jail? Never. She lunged down the stairs toward Amira, but something extraordinary happened. The little girl didn't run. Instead, she shouted something in Arabic that Khalil had taught her while they waited at the cafe. Kaliyok and Alamaki, may God be with you. The cry in Arabic made Khalil react instantly. He grabbed Amira in his arms and threw himself to the side, knocking Victoria down in the process. The knife flew across the room, sticking into the wooden wall. When the police entered the room, they found Victoria on the floor, immobilized by Khalil's weight, shouting threats at Amira. I'll find you, you worm. Wherever they're hiding you, I'll find you and finish what I started. Detective Rodriguez approached Dr. Carter. Do we have everything on tape? Every word, Carter confirmed, showing him the phone, which was still recording. A full confession of premeditated murder and attempted murder. As Victoria was handcuffed and led away, she turned one last time to Khalil. You think you're the hero of this story? You don't know anything. There are very powerful people behind this. People who won't let a dirty kid ruin years of planning. Her words echoed as the police car door closed. Khalil looked at Amira, who was trembling in his arms. What did she mean by powerful people? Amira asked. Carter closed his briefcase with a grim expression. Christine Palmer didn't work alone. She was part of a larger operation, an insurance scheme that moves millions. And now that she's been arrested, now they'll want to silence the witness. Khalil finished, looking at Amira. Not if she's under the protection of someone with enough resources to take them on. Carter said, looking meaningfully at Khalil. At that moment, Khalil made a decision that would change their lives forever. He knelt in front of Amamira and held her small hands. Amamira Johnson, you saved me twice today. First from the slashed brakes, then by showing me who Victoria really was. Now it's my turn to save you. How? She asked, still trembling. Would you like to have a family again? A family that would never let anyone hurt you. Amira's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of hope. You would adopt me if you want me to. And Dr. Carter will make sure you're protected throughout the process. Amamira threw herself into Khalil's arms, sobbing. I promise I'll be a good daughter. I promise I'll study and I'll never steal food again. An hour just the way you are, Khalil whispered, feeling tears stream down his own face. You're the bravest daughter I could ever ask for. 6 months later, the courtroom at the Manhattan Federal Court was packed. Christine Palmer, now wearing an orange prison uniform, sat next to her lawyers, avoiding looking at the prosecution table where Khalil, Amamera, and Dr. Carter awaited the final verdict. Are you afraid of her? Khalil asked Amamera quietly, who was now wearing an elegant blue dress, and her hair was tied back in adorable braids with gold bows. Not anymore, Amira replied, holding her adoptive father's hand tightly. You taught me that bad people only have power when good people stay silent. The investigation that followed Christine's arrest had exposed an international criminal network that had been operating for over 10 years. 12 people were arrested, including Christine's real boyfriend, a corrupt insurance consultant who had orchestrated the murders of at least 15 wealthy men in 5 different countries. "The court is now in session," announced the officer. "Christine Palmer, you have been found guilty of first-degree murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and criminal conspiracy for the deaths of Amamera Johnson's parents and the attempted murder of Khalil al-Hassan. You are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole." The judge's gavel echoed through the room. Christine finally looked at Amamera, but instead of the fear she expected to see in the child's eyes, she found something much more powerful. Pity whispered to Khalil, "Dad, I feel sorry for her. She'll never know what it's like to have a real family." Khalil smiled, proud of his 9-year-old daughter's wisdom. "That's what makes you special, Habibi. You have too big a heart to hold hatred." After the sentence, they went to Dr. Carter's office to finalize the last details of the adoption. Amamera's life had been completely transformed. She attended one of the best private schools in New York, had her own princess-themed bedroom, her choice, and had discovered a surprising talent for math. "Dr. Carter, that money we recovered from Christine's account," Khalil began. "The $2 million she stole from the families of her previous victims." Carter smiled. "It has been returned to the surviving families, and the unclaimed portion will go to the fund you created to protect street children." "The Amira's Hope Foundation," the girl said proudly. "We've already helped 43 children get off the streets." 6 months earlier, Khalil al-Hassan was a successful but lonely businessman, married to a woman who was plotting his murder. Today, he was the father of an extraordinary girl who had taught him that true wealth wasn't in his bank accounts, but in the courage to do the right thing. "Dad," Amamera said as they walked down Fifth Avenue toward the car. An armored SUV much safer than the Lamborghini. "Do you think my parents would be proud of me?" Kyle stopped and knelt on the sidewalk, not caring about the curious glances of passers-by. "Amamera, your parents raised you to be brave, honest, and kind. They would be prouder of you than any father could be. And they would love you too," she said, hugging him, "because you love me the way they loved me." That night, as he tucked Amira into bed in her room, filled with books and toys, Khalil reflected on how a morning that began with an assassination attempt had become the most important day of his life. "Daddy, can I tell you a secret?" Amira said, snuggling under the covers. "Of course, Habibi, I wasn't sleeping behind your wall by accident. I've been watching your house for a week, because you always leave food out for the stray cats. I figured if you were kind to animals, maybe you'd be kind to children, too." Khalil felt his eyes fill with tears. "So you saved me because I fed cats?" "No," Amira smiled sleepily. "I saved you because good people deserve to be protected just like you protect me now." A year and a half later, Khalil was on stage at an international conference on children's rights with Amira by his side, now 10 years old and speaking fluent English, Arabic, and Spanish. "My father taught me that it doesn't matter where you come from, or how much money you have," Amira said into the microphone, her voice clear and confident. "What matters is whether you have the courage to help someone when no one is looking." Sometimes saving a life is as simple as shouting, "Don't drive." The audience erupted in applause. Khalil looked at his daughter, the brave girl who had saved his life, and then allowed him to save hers, and knew he had found his true purpose. The Amira's Hope Foundation now operated in 12 cities, had taken more than 500 children off the streets, and Amira made a point of meeting each one of them personally. Christine Palmer was serving her sentence in a federal prison, her only visitors being investigators wanting information about other cases. Sometimes the most unlikely people carry the greatest lessons. A homeless child taught a millionaire that true wealth is having someone who cares enough to scream when you're in danger. And that family isn't just about blood. It's about choosing to love and protect someone even when the whole world turns its back on them. If this story touched your heart and made you think about how many Amiras go unnoticed in your life every day, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove heroes come in all sizes, and that sometimes all it takes is one brave voice to change 2 destinies forever.